Hey guys, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com. Got another product review for you today. Want to take a look at the RC Tube plugin from Slate Digital. All right, Slate Digital is the combo of Steven Slate from Steven Slate Drums, producer, engineer, had makes some pro audio products. And he's partnered with Fabrice Gabriel, who makes a lot of killer plugins, and they've kind of been partnering up to create a slew of really cool plugins for your DAW in the last 3-4 years. Everything from Trigger to the FGX mastering suite, and most recently to the Virtual Console collection, which originally was 4 console emulations that you could run all of your tracks through in your DAW and sort of get that warmth, that bigness, that fatness, the sort of non-linear qualities that an analog console provides, considering we're working in a perfectly linear, perfectly mathematical DAW these days. And even more recently than the VCC, Virtual Console Collection, they released a 5th emulation, the RC Tube console, and it's emulating an old 50s era kind of tube broadcast analog desk. That has a lot of fatness, a lot of low end, a lot of warmth, and what they did was really smart. They released this one emulation as a plugin you could buy by itself. So instead of $250 for the original package of console emulations, you can drop only $50 and pick up one of the emulations, which is this RC Tube, which is now included in the whole VCC package. So that's what I'm looking at today, is just the RC Tube emulation. It's a $50 plugin, but I gotta say, this thing is way worth more than that because it does something that your other plugins can't do. It sort of emulates the intangibles of an analog console. Now, an analog console is not going to make or break your mix. You have to know how to mix. You have to have well-recorded tracks. You have to know how to use EQ and compression well. Those are standard fare in mixing. But there's a reason why the pros that know how to mix, that know how to use their EQ and compression well, are working with top talent and well-recorded tracks. A lot of those guys still want to run their mixes through a console. Why would they do that, considering it's so inconvenient and so inefficient as opposed to just working all in the box? Well, it's mostly because of this intangible quality, this warmth that they feel a console gives their already great tracks. Now, what the RC Tube, as well as the whole Virtual Console collection, is supposed to do is recreate that vibe. They went to great lengths to sort of emulate and analyze the algorithms that they could create that would mimic what a console's doing. And it's not linear, it's not perfectly the same every time. And so what we've got here in this plugin set, which you can use in any DAW, is you're going to get the RC Tube channel, which is a plugin that you will drop on every channel of your mix. So it's kind of crazy. You're adding a bunch of plugins. This isn't just a one plugin that you run everything through. It's 2 plugins. The channel one that you will put on every single channel of your mix, because every channel, whether it's a bass guitar, a kick drum, a vocal, a tambourine, whatever, is going to drive that plugin differently based on its rhythm, based on its dynamics, its volume, and so it's going to get different results from the channel plugin. So you don't want them to all go to the same channel. They're all going to have their own plugin, and then all those nonlinear qualities are going to be dumped into your master fader, where you put one copy of the RC Tube mix bus. So what I have in front of us right now is just the mix bus plugin, which is on my master fader, and then I pulled up one of the channel plugins. They're all over the place. They're all going to be exactly the same, but if you could watch them all at the same time, you would see their meters hitting differently based on how loud they are. Just 2 main knobs. The input knob can give you more or less volume from the plugin, so it's kind of like a trim plugin. And then the drive knob. The drive knob is linked across all of your plugins. So all the channels drive when I turn it up. It's going to turn up all the other channels as well as the mix bus. This is how much of the console analog effect you're going to hear. It doesn't turn up the volume, doesn't decrease the volume, it just increases or decreases the saturation of the effect. Okay, so that's really the biggest thing you're going to play with, is how much or how little of the effect you want to hear. What I'm going to do is just press play through part of a mix I just finished working on and turn the effects on and off. So I'm going to be turning the RC Tube on across all my tracks and turning it off across all my tracks. And what you're going to hear is something that I think is subtle, yet very, very real, right? So it's not going to change my mix. It's not going to adjust the EQ balance. It's going to add something at the bottom end. It's going to add some warmth. It might bring out the guitars a little bit more. It's just doing its thing, and I know that's not very, mathematical for you guys that want a very straightforward do this and this is the result. It's very much an intangible quality, and I really, really dig what it does. I think it sort of smooths out maybe the transients a little bit on our mix. Not really sure. You might hear something different. I've got the drive at about +3, which is where I've used it on a lot of mixes. And what I'm going to do is, it's on bypass right now. Light is off. When I flip it on, you'll see the red light go on. That's when you know the effect is engaged. So take a listen closely, and sort of see what you hear and see if you like what you hear, and you'll know that that's what the plugin is doing. Let's take a listen.
None is good, no, not one. We seek to worship everything that you are, God. And none is good, no, not one. We seek to worship everything that you are, God.
So again, it's subtle. Depending on what you were listening to this video on, whether it's good headphones, good studio speakers, you may have heard more of the effect kick in and off than other people. But again, it's an intangible subtlety to it. It's not going to make or break your mix, but what I think I hear, and why I've been using it on the last few mixing projects I've done, is it brings in a warmth and just a vibe. If you want to use a musical term, it's just got a vibe to it that's really, really cool. It's the same type of thing when guitar players say, man, I just love that tube amp, and people say, well, you don't need a tube amp to get a good tube sound, and guitar players will say, yeah, but there's something about the tubes, man, the vibe I get from playing my telly through that tube combo amp, I just dig it. They're justified in that feeling, even though they may not be able to prove what it is that the sound is doing. They may just love the way the tube and the warmth and the electronics and the electricity is messing with their sound, and what they get is something that they feel more than they can mathematically say why it sounds better. And that's all mixing is subtle, subjective decisions. And I think the RC Tube, as a set of plugins, does something that gives vibe to your tracks. I'm not going to mix without it moving on, because it just brings a little something extra, and it only makes my mixes better. Now, you still have to know what you're doing. It's not going to fix things, but what I've been doing is throwing it up as the very first set of plugins at a very early stage in the mix, and I start to mix through it. So my mixing decisions are made by it. But I've done a mixing project as well where I mixed the whole project, then I picked up this plugin and I added it after the fact, and it still brought out some warmth to the whole track. So it really can be used in a variety of ways. It's a really simple plugin to use. I highly recommend you check it out, especially for $50 US. You can get a feel for what the Virtual Console Collection can do, and if you want more options, if you want to use an SSL or if you want to use a Neve console, you can buy the rest of the collection, and I think at a discounted price, and then it'll give you the functionality of the remainder of these consoles on the selector knob. So check it out from Slate Digital. Mess around with it. There is a demo available. It's really a unique little plugin, and I think you'll enjoy the results on your next mix. Hope that helps you guys. Again, this is Graham at therecordingrevolution.com. Have a great week. Make some great music, and we'll see you next time.